Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Pucks from the Pine Tree Pod. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining us again this evening. Tonight, I am happy and excited to welcome in a special guest, ECHL off ice official, Mr. Regan Sweeney. Um, Regan, thanks for being here. Welcome in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, this is been looking forward to this chat. Maybe just real quick intro on yourself. Let the audience get to know you a little bit.
Sure. My day job, I'm an attorney. I here in Portland. I have my own office that you're seeing right now in the background. I work out of my house. But yeah, and the evenings, at least when the Mariners are in town, I'm an off ice official with the ECHL, and I've been doing that since 2012, I think, 2013 maybe.
Nice, nice. Great, great. Well, thanks for that. Of course, we'll talk a little bit of Mariners tonight. We're going to talk, of course, about the ECHL. But before we do that, of course, we're coming off the heels of a very busy Friday in the NHL. Um, you know, what was your take on what we saw on Friday?
I thought it was one of the busier trade deadlines that I've seen in recent years, especially with some of the bigger names moving. Definitely locally, feeling the impact on that, at least in terms, the Bruins. Big. I did not expect to see that kind of a sell off, but they're shifting gears, especially so many, not even that many years off of going all in to get there, but.
Yeah, I mean, end of an era for sure for Boston. I was doing a live stream and getting ready to sign off a little after 3 o'clock. And I, s- one last check on Twitter before I logged off, and all the news was, oh, Marshy to Florida. And mean, I was speechless. I was
It's
just
going to
like,
be weird seeing him in a
oh,
Panthers uniform.
I've been sick to my stomach for, three days. So it's what it is. It's what it is. But yeah, to your point, I think it was one of the busier days at the deadline that we've had so many years in the past. Not this many teams are in it. The line of buyers and sellers was very defined, in years past. And this year, so many teams alive. It really took to the deadline to make all those deals happen. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was exciting to see it. But
Yeah, it
yeah,
kept you busy, I'm sure.
yeah, I mean, major reset for Boston. I think it's the right call, and it will definitely, I think, potentially affect the Maine Mariners and their minor league pipeline down the road with all the draft picks they get. So that could actually prove beneficial to us here
It could
down
pay
down the
off
road.
very locally. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how that shakes out.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, So, of course, we all get into hockey in some way, shape, or form. I told my, Genesis hockey story in my very first episode, a friend of mine that got me into the sport. But share with us a little bit about how you discovered hockey, how you got into the sport.
Sure. I grew up in a small town right outside of Hartford, so I grew up with the Whalers.
There you go. Like the hat. It's a good one.
They were our local team, and so actually, my best friend's dad was an off ice official with the Whalers for the NHL at the time.
Okay.
He was a goal judge, so he would bring us to games early when the off ice officials go in ahead of time, and we get to see behind the scenes. We got to meet a bunch of players and just kind of be around the rink a whole lot more often than kind of your average fan would be. And so it just really stuck with me. I really love the atmosphere and the community feel of it. Hockey really does have a family, kind of feel to it. There's a hockey family. And so I just took to that and I loved it. I, played a little pickup hockey here and there as a kid, street hockey and pond hockey. And then in college, I started playing in like men's league.
Nice, nice. What a great experience to be able to, at that age, to be able to get in. And even as a Bruins fan, I miss the Whalers being up here. What a tragedy
Those were
that they
fun
moved out of
games.
town. Oh, I know. Yes, they were. Those were spirited games. Definitely miss it. Definitely miss it. And of course, we've been talking earlier. You're a Washington Capitals fan.
I
Um,
am.
I'm curious. Just, I mean, wow. The year they're having, the Ovi watch. The playoff. Coming right around the corner. What's your take on what we're seeing so far with the Caps?
I think they've surprised everybody. I don't think anybody was expecting them to be this good because they're kind of patchwork together this year. But I think like any good playoff bound team, they found a bunch of guys that work well together and are elevating each other's play. So I think they're getting better performances out of some of those guys. The Coach Carberry, I think, is in line for the Jack Adams for sure, for his coaching talents and being able to get those performances out of these guys. And I think Ovi's Chase kind of has a fire going under everybody. Like, he's so exciting out there and he's having so much fun, and you can tell it's contagious, and everybody else just, wants him to score. So I think that's just kind of contagious, and it's fun for them. I think they're having a good time.
And it's fun to watch them this year. And I couldn't say that the last 2 or 3 years, even last year when they make the playoffs, they kind of snuck in the back door.
Their goal differential was so bad, you knew the playoffs weren't going to be a long run.
Yeah, I'll say this. I'm going to toot my own horn here a little bit. I did a top 5 of most improved teams on the year, and I had Washington on that list. I also had Nashville on the list, so you take it for a grain of salt, But I definitely expected them to be a playoff team this year. But to your point, I didn't expect them to be running away with the Metro or running away with the East like they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the Matt Roy pickup. He's one of my favorite defensemen. He was high on my list. And Chikrin, I'm not a big Chikrin guy, but he's fit in so well there.
Yeah, so he's been scoring like crazy. They're trying to sign him long term, I think, at this point, because he's just fit in so well. That's the thing. They can take guys from other systems and get it to work, with them. So it's been going really well.
Yeah, and of course we know, again, going back to the minor leagues, situation with Hershey, and of course we had South Carolina up here in Portland earlier this year, loaded up and down the organization, right?
They really have they want their minor leaguers to win and get used to the atmosphere of winning, so that they want that more. And they really do put an emphasis on their minor leagues. And South Carolina comes in, they're practically an AHL team, and Hershey could compete against NHL teams any given night. So it's kind of funny. But it just goes to show how some organizations treat their minor leagues.
Right. Yeah, I think that series, if I do recall, South Carolina had 12 AHL contracts and the Mariners had 3, I think, for that weekend, something like crazy. Not making excuses, but it was impressive.
No, it makes a difference.
No, for sure. Especially when 2 of those 3 are goalies, right? You can't only play one goalie at a time.
And goalies come with instructions to be played, so they got to do that.
Well, I'm ecstatic to see what Washington's doing this year. I love what Ovi's doing. He's gonna get the record this year. I don't see how he doesn't, right?
I'm hoping he does. I mean, it looks like if he hadn't broken his leg, would he have already, kind of thing? It was at the start of the season, it was like, okay, maybe partway through next season he'll get there, but he just came out on fire, and he's been there ever since. I mean, 9 goals left with 10 games or something like that, or 12 games.
Yeah, maybe even more than that. They might have more like 15 or 18. I'll have to look at their schedule, but
it's definitely within the realm of this season for sure.
Yeah, and I think they play in Boston, I want to say April 1st. So I mean, that could be a real hot ticket if he's getting close, if he's within a goal or 2. So everybody, if you go get those tickets now, just in case.
I still have my season tickets in DC, and I've got tickets to the April 4th game that I'm gotta look at seeing where he's at to
Gotcha.
If he's anywhere close, I think I kind of have to go. There's a Mariners game that night, but I might.
I was just looking at the schedule. Yeah, we got Twa in town, so you might have to skip that one. Nobody would blame you. Nobody would blame you for that.
We'll see where he's at.
Yeah, for sure. Been a lot of fun. We've been so fortunate as hockey fans to have these years of Sydney, of Ovi. Of course, now we have what McDavid is doing. And listen, I'm not a Maple Leafs fan, but Austin Matthews. I mean, we have been witness to some incredible, and Pasternak, I'm going to put him on that list too. It's just some incredible talent. And seeing Ovi get this record that for so many years people thought nobody will ever break it, nobody ever touch it.
Yeah, that nobody would come anywhere near it.
Now the assist record that Waino has, I truly don't think anybody's touches that.
And he's still got more than it's crazy, that amount of assists. But
it's just incredible stuff.
It's been fun to watch.
Yeah. And I listen, I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight anymore with the bees being where they're at. Hey, I wouldn't be sad to see Ovi lift another cup. That'd be
That's
that'd
the
be a
thing.
lot of
He's,
fun.
he's likable. He's having a good time. He's fun to watch. Yeah,
Just
he's
not
easy to pull for.
just not Florida. Please, just not Florida. Anybody
Yeah,
but Florida.
we've had enough of Florida.
Sorry, Florida fans, if you're watching. I'm not over it. Not over it. Well, let's turn our attention now back to the cross, back to the Maine Mariners. Of course,
Yeah,
you've watched a lot of hockey from your seat there, going all the way back all the years. Because I believe you were working with the AHL at one point too,
I
correct?
worked. Yeah, I started with the Pirates,
Mhm.
and then switched over to the Mariners when the Mariners came to town.
Yeah. What's your take on this season? I mean, I know you don't work for the Mariners; you work for the ECHL, so I know you have to have some
Well, yeah, but
objectivity to that. But
seeing them so often, yeah, for sure. It's been a tough one. I think there's been a lot of personnel changes, and I think that's really hard to get any kind of team chemistry when and that's when guys are in and out of the roster so often. That happens with injuries and call ups and send downs, although there haven't been a whole lot of those this year. The league as a whole has lost a lot of guys to Europe, and the Mariners are no exception. Um, yeah, it's just been tough. I think roster wise to really there hasn't been a whole lot to work with. They lost a lot of scoring over the summer that was really hard to replace. Um, and I think they tried as best as they could, but
yeah, I had Dexter Payne and Mike Keeley on a few weeks back. We talked about Europe being a problem and kind of the new CBA that they're working on. Try to curtail that a little bit. Try to find some different avenues to incentivize the players to stick around here in this league and not go over there, because it hasn't just been the Mariners that's been hurt by that's been touched by that. A
right.
lot of teams have dealt with it. Um, yeah, it's been rugged. I mean, for lack of a better word, it's been a tough year. I appreciate the effort and the energy that they seem to bring each night, regardless of the results. But yeah, of course I hear from a lot of fans, a lot of season ticket holders that reach out, and there's a lot of growing frustration. And I guess for you Mariner fans out there listening, I'll just say this: this will be the first year in a while that assuming we don't make the playoffs. I don't think we're going to. Um, it happens. You're gonna miss from time to time, especially in the ECHL with so much turnover with these rosters. So I just hope everybody can take a deep breath. It's not the complete end of the world. It might be the end of the season, but not the end of the world. And I'm just excited about the new ownership, what Mr. Payne has in store. He's of course shared a number of those plans here on this channel, and should be a lot of fun. So
Yeah,
anyway, thanks.
I watched that episode, and I was excited to hear some of the things that he was saying about the salary cap only lets you do so much, but you can offer things like housing and training facilities and things like that. So yeah, I look forward to seeing and it's nice to have local ownership. Not that the previous ownership wasn't involved, but it's good to have ownership that an owner shows up to the games, which it's good to see him at a few of those.
Yeah, I think his accessibility has been refreshing. Um, and
Yeah.
some of those plans that they have for next year and the years to come is pretty exciting stuff. So
It seems like attendance has been up this year too. I haven't checked the numbers on the ECHL site to compare to last year, but it feels like and seems like attendance has been up this year, which is really good. That's always a
well,
plus.
yeah, the last time I talked to Keels about that, he seemed to indicate that attendance was on the up this year, more sellouts, and yeah, I think it's been a good year from a gate perspective, and you just hope
Saturdays, I
it.
think, was the most tickets or the
Mhm.
sold out yet. It was over 6,000 for
Yeah, it's
the
awesome,
first responders night. Yeah.
awesome stuff. Yeah, good stuff. Hopefully, some momentum that can carry into next year, and hopefully with a better roster on the ice. But
Yeah, we'll see what they can find over the summer.
yeah, for sure. Well, let's take a step back for yourself. How did your journey working in professional hockey begin?
So, like I said, when I was a kid, my friend's dad was an off ice official with the Whalers, and then later on, my dad became an off ice official with the Hartford Wolfpack when they came to town after the Whalers left. And so was just kind of exposed to that world. And when I moved here to Portland, I knew that, the Pirates were here, and I thought, hey, this would be a great opportunity to try and get in that door and do that here. And so I got in touch with the local head of off ice officials and was like, hey, I'm around, I'm available, would love to work, whatever whatever you need me to do, happy to do it. And I joined the team. I don't know whether it was that year or the next year as a sub. Worked a handful of games here and there, and eventually worked my way to doing stats. And then when the Mariners came to town, now I'm the supervisor of off ice officials.
Okay, great. So just a matter of making a phone call, putting yourself out there, and working your way up through, as like you said, as a sub. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's how a lot of people start.
Yeah. And that was actually another question I kind of had is, and we'll get to that here in a moment. But so of course, there's a lot of things that go on the intra workings of a hockey game. If you're a fan, you walk in, you're watching the game, but there's a whole lot of other things going around in the kind of in the underbelly. So, can you tell us a little bit about the role of an off ice official?
Sure. Yeah, for our crew, we've got 10 people working each game. So you've got 2 goal judges, 1 person in each penalty box, a person running the clock and the scoreboard, the person sitting next to them who's our penalty timekeeper and keeps track of who's in the box and needs to be going out when and what goes up on the scoreboard kind of thing. Then upstairs, there's 4 of us doing stats. You've been upstairs, so you've seen our crew and what that looks like. We've got 4 of us upstairs doing stat keeping, 2 of which are on laptops for live stats, so that if you were looking at the ECHL site or the app, that's where they get that data from, is our guys upstairs putting that in as it happens. And me doing the scoring of keeping track of goals and assists.
Nice. Yeah, it's you gotta see you guys all over the place, like you said, in the penalty boxes upstairs, and got that nice bright orange box that overhangs. I think I usually have that view on my end of the box. It's always lovely to sit there, and I got orange in
Yeah,
front
it's
of
an
me.
old school barn. Yeah.
Old school barn, isn't it? Yeah, that's great. Keeping kind of on the statistics, it's more of a stats nerd question for you, but what deeper level of statistical content can you envision the ECHL adding or tabulating, for live and for the website? I asked the question, never expecting that it'll ever be at the level of the NHL in terms of all the deeper stats, but just curious your perspective on that and where it might be heading.
I'm a stats nerd, so I do love the question.
Yeah.
I think it all depends on technology and how much we can integrate into what we do. Because we've got 2 people doing stuff live on screens as it is. So tracking things like time on ice, that's one I get asked a lot. If we track that would require more technology, more people, and a bigger crew. Things like face-offs, hits, blocked shots. If there's teams that want to track that, they usually have interns or people like that are doing that. When you get to the NHL level, and maybe even for some AHL teams, for things like time on ice, they have chips in their jerseys that track where they are at any given time. That helps with that stuff. Otherwise, it's trying to figure who's on the ice, like plus minus, like we do, is just kind of keeping an eye on everybody and watching to see who's where at any given time. So it would just require more staff, and then the more technology. How easy is that stuff to record? I'm sure the NHL software has, all those things built in, because when you go to their website and watch their Gamecaster version of it, it's got all that built in. So somebody's, keeping those officially.
Yeah. I think the face-off one is one I love. I watch that one for every NHL game. I may have to ask Keeley if the Mariners have anybody. They must have somebody tabulating that for the boys during the season.
They might. It's something I could add to what I do, but there's no way of us reporting that, like within the software system we use now, at least. That's not something we've been tracking. I kind of track it since I'm tracking who's got the puck at any given time. I'm aware
Yeah.
of who won the face-off, but yeah, it's nothing we have any way of reporting.
Yeah, I'll be curious, as you say, as technology improves and becomes more efficient and more effective, how that changes for the league as time goes on. So it's impressive what you guys do capture with a fairly small crew. I mean, that's 10 people. That's not a lot actually
No, that's for
for
what's going on in the especially when it comes to things like plus minus, and figuring who's all on the ice when someone scores a goal, especially with the Mariners goal scoring routine where they turn the lights off
right.
when the goal scored. So we got to be pretty quick about getting that kind of information in. But yeah, it's a dedicated group.
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been enough of that this year, so I guess maybe the lights haven't been off too as much as it should be, but unfortunately. But yeah, you're right. I hadn't even thought of that, how that could affect you guys trying to like, who was that? What number was that? Oh
Right?
man, I missed it. I missed it. No, I one little trick I do is I have my headphones on during the game. I'm listening to Keely's call. So I'm taking notes and doing all the things I do, and how many times I might miss something. Like I know in 5 seconds from now I'm gonna hear Keely's call on that play because it's a little delayed
I guess right. Yeah, I have a little
from
delay. Yeah,
live, and so I'm able to kind of catch up myself just from from listening to him.
that is helpful.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Now, did you ever have any aspirations to become an on ice official or a ref for a linesman? Was that ever in the playbook for you?
Honestly, not until recently. I've actually been considering getting involved,
All right.
and I'll put in a plug for. They're doing an off-ice official, or not off-ice official, but I guess a referee's appreciation night at a Mariners game. It's not an official Mariners event. It's something being put on by some local officials. But yeah,
Nice.
they're trying to drum up support. I believe it's the March 21st game. They'll have a table there with information if people want to sign up and learn more about becoming a ref, because there's a shortage. They definitely
Yeah.
need more. There's a shortage, I think, in almost every sport right now, but certainly for hockey, they can always use more refs.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Well, I'll be curious to see. I guess we won't be allowed to bring tomatoes into that game. No tomato throwing on the ice, everybody. But yeah, I'd be curious to see if you if you get out there on the skates. We'll be sure to extra boo you
Yeah,
if
thanks.
you're out there. So, of course, of course. Of course, just in your time. Now I go back to your childhood as well, going to all those Whaler games, but your time here working both, for the AHL and the ECHL. Have you had any good stories of meeting any big names from the hockey world, hockey universe?
The people I have seen have come through usually as coaches, former players as coaches or part of the coaching staff came through. But really, the one that sticks out was Matt Cook, famous enforcer type,
Mhm.
was coaching the Newfoundland Growlers, and they were in town here. And I went. This is when we were still using paper lineup cards, so
Oh
I went
wow.
into their locker room to get their lineup. Their assistant coach handed me their lineup card. It was signed, all filled out, ready to go. I said, "Good to go." He says, "Yep." I said, "Thanks." Go to the Mariners, give them a copy, get their lineup. As I go back to the Growlers locker room, he's waiting outside for me, all in a huff. You can tell he's pissed off.
Oh no.
Why did you take that lineup card? I did not give you that lineup card. I didn't sign off on that. I was like, it's signed. This is your signature? I didn't really want to get into it with him, but
No, no.
he felt the need, yeah, knowing his reputation. Not that I expected anything to happen, but I did have the privilege of being verbally dressed down by Cookie in the
Oh
tunnels
man.
before the game. But yeah, I mean, it turned out he didn't have any lineup changes or anything. It was all he just wanted to be the one that handed it to the scorer, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, be pissed at your assistant, not you. That seems odd. That's funny. Yeah, he's not somebody I'd wanna mess with, probably,
Yeah, he's the only one I had any sort of interaction that stood out, other than the guys being nice, and you start recognizing people once you see them a bunch of times, and you're friendly with them. But yeah, that was the only one that stood out. It's a little rough.
That's hilarious, that's hilarious. And of course, you would not have you said 2012 when you started, so you wouldn't have been here when Barry Trotz was here with the Portland Pirates back in the
No,
that would have been back in the 90s, I
I was
guess.
in
Yeah.
DC when he was with the Caps.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah.
not yeah, not when he was here with the Pirates.
Yeah, I love all the stories you hear. I listen to NHL radio in my car. I drive a lot for my job, and how many times Portland, Maine comes up when they have, guests
Yeah.
come on or whatever. And when you start to go back through the backlog of players that came through either with the old Mariners, under the Bruins or the Devils, or of course the Portland Pirates, it's just a slew of NHL, kind of some legends and guys like Barry Trotz and people like that. I mean Doc Emmerich, up in the
Yes.
box, right? So it's pretty incredible. Again, and every time it comes up, I'm always like, oh, that's our city. That's great. Love to hear it. Love to hear
And
it.
they all, have great memories of having played here too, which is a great thing. The city, should have that draw. It should be a great place to play, and I think it is. But
Yeah, and I think that as we reference, what Dexter and the team is working on, I think there's some work to get back to that. Um,
yeah,
and I think that's that the heritage is here, and yeah, it's a should be a destination. I would
yeah,
say for
definitely.
for those ECHL players. Um, Favorite memory during a game that you've worked? Any favorite memories that stand out for you?
There's been a couple of fun ones, like when the Mariners scored 10 at home. I think 2 or 3 seasons ago. That was a good one. Um, but I think my favorite one was probably from 2 years ago. I think there was a huge blizzard that came in, and since the other team was already at the Holiday Inn across the way, and the refs were already here, they're like, "Well, we're playing it. We're doing it." And I think 50, 60 fans showed up. It was
Nice.
almost nobody there. We ended up roping a couple interns into doing off-ice official duties because we're like, we're not having these guys drive in from afar like some of them do. So we had a couple of
Right.
interns, working goal judges of the penalty boxes.
It's awesome.
um, but it was fun. And at the end of the game, they took a picture. All the fans that were there got together and they got a picture on the ice. So somewhere there's a photo of that. This, I think, one of the smallest crowds in attendance we ever reported.
I mean, it's a fun story, certainly not something that the owners at the time would probably wanna see, very, very bad gate for a night like that, but, yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, I guess I don't myself remember that game, but, that's great. That's
Yeah, it was
great.
a fun one.
Yeah. Yeah, it must have felt more like a practice,
Yeah, it was
or
really, really quiet. You heard everything from the ice. You definitely didn't miss a word,
yeah,
no
yeah,
matter
it's
what it
like,
was.
"Alright, boys, watch your language tonight. Everybody's gonna hear everything you say, man," like, and then they all got cell phones, so,
That's
uh
tomorrow. They got to watch your language. It's the kids' game. It's
oh, that's right, the 10:30 game.
30 game. Yeah.
I am sadly gonna miss that one. I was hoping to be there, but got some work engagements that I couldn't get out of, so I'm unfortunately not gonna be there for that, but what is that, Norfolk? It's
I
Norfolk
think so.
tomorrow. Yep, yep, that's their last game against them. They need every point they can get.
Yeah.
Well, last question for me, and we do have a few listener questions we'll dive into.
Sure.
Um, and you did kind of reference like a workshop thing that coming up, but if someone wanted to work as an off-ice official, or for the ECHL in some capacity, get a foot in the door, where would they start, and what sort of advice can you share with them?
Yeah. So off ice official crews are all done locally, although we end up doing training and stuff with the ECHL itself. But um, so if somebody was interested in becoming an off ice official, I'd say the best bet is contacting your local off ice officials, getting to know them and say, hey, I'm interested. It's something I'd like to do. And that's kind of how everybody finds their way in, is just kind of knowing somebody or getting to know somebody that does it. I think the biggest part of it is being patient. Um, all of us love doing what we do, and we love the game, so we really want to work as many games as we can. And guys tend to do it as long as we possibly can. So it's not all that often openings come up, and even if people come on as subs, it may be only work a handful of games a season, kind of thing, just depending on when the demand is. And I'd say another big thing is to be flexible. So if somebody came up and said, "Hey, I just want to work the penalty boxes," or "I just want to work goal judge," it's harder to work them in, right? But if they're more versatile, you're more of a Brock Holt than a Rafael Devers type.
Yeah.
You can work a bunch of positions more. That's more helpful, especially as people get on the laptop. The more we integrate technology into the game, the more helpful that'll be. So, yeah, let's just get in touch with your local folks. Keep that in mind.
Great. Yeah, and I like what you said about just the flexibility and being willing to do anything. I mean, I was in a prior year before COVID, I was doing a little independent baseball scouting. And
Fun.
I actually did have an interview lined up with the Toronto Blue Jays. Not an interview, but a meeting with their area scout in Boston. And COVID unfortunately killed all of it. It all went away.
Ugh.
He was looking to bring me on to do like Maine, New Hampshire, and like cover UMaine and UNH, and
Yeah.
all for free, no, no pay or anything. And that's kind of how you have to do in baseball. You got to work for nothing, and you got to go where you're told, do whatever, sweep the floor, do the laundry, whatever it is to work your way up, unless you have those connections or were a former player. But even those guys, sometimes those former players that played only 3 or 4 years, they're working, they're associate scouts, never home, on the road 300 nights a year, like just
Right.
grinding it out. It's not always easy, but I think that for any pro sports job, you have to have that willingness to do whatever, to get in and get that experience, get that expertise behind you. Kind of a follow up to that too is, do you see a lot of ECHL officials that are able to move up to the AHL or move up to the NHL as time goes on? Or is that just more of a geographic situation?
I think it tends to be more geography based, because most people are, in one area. Would they move if they got a chance to work for an NHL team? I don't know. I mean, maybe they got family, a job, other stuff going on. This isn't like a career changing, you know, uh,
Right.
money making venture for us.
Sure.
So, uh, but I think that would more depend on geography. If someone were to move somewhere where they had that, I think it would certainly help to say, hey, I've got this experience doing this. I can do this position, that spot. I can work stats. I can do this and that. Um, I think that's helpful if you could to bring that experience. But I think it comes down more to geography, being
Yeah,
nearby the rink.
that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, we do have a few listener questions, so I do want to thank
Cool.
everybody for chiming in with those questions. First one is from Slew 1974. And I think you kind of referenced this earlier on, but why is it that some games there'll be four officials on the ice and some only three? Is it simply ECHL doesn't have enough refs to go around?
Oh, so yeah, actually, this year there are two refs and two lineys for 50% of the games. Last year it was 25%, so they've actually upped it, and I think that's why it's more noticeable when there's just the one ref, because we've had two refs that much more often this year. Um, it really is. It comes down to just the number of refs that are available, but also
Mhm.
the geography of the league, because I think the league is so spread out now. You've got teams as far west as Utah and Texas and
South
uh,
Dakota.
yeah, South Dakota. Then you've got teams down in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, a few teams up here in this area. So I think it's just a matter of scheduling and logistics. But the last year was 25%, this year's 50%. We'll see if they continue on that trend next year. I think it depends on how many officials they can hire. And do that. But yeah, there's always two lines persons and at least one ref.
Nice, nice. Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably why that's more noticeable because we're having more of it. So that's
Yeah.
a good trend for sure. All right. Next question here from Pine Point 89 Hockey. Do you ever see the AHL returning to Portland or any place in northern New England?
I can't definitively say no, but I think it depends. I think that's another thing that depends on geography, because the NHL teams like to have their AHL teams nearby. It's not like the days when it used to be when the Pirates, were minor league team for the Ducks or Florida for a while, things like that. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. Call-ups were a day away at least,
Right.
whereas if it's, like the Bruins have always, not always, but they've had Providence for so long, that's just a quick drive.
Yeah.
And I think teams like having that. So there was kind of a migration of a bunch of AHL teams out west. So I think if there were another NHL team in the area, that would make more sense. I don't know if a territory to the north of us is getting
Hmm.
another
Maybe a good.
team. If I think Portland would be
Mhm.
an attractive destination to have an
Yeah.
AHL team if they were to get an NHL team, although they may want to keep it in country. We'll see.
Mm. So what you're saying is we should really be cheering for Quebec City to get an NHL franchise.
I would love to
Yeah.
see that happen again.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Just to see the Northeast back, that would be really, really cool. Another one of those, like with the Hartford Whalers. Um,
Yep.
yeah, a lot of
I do not hold out hope that the Whalers will ever be
yeah.
revived. I appreciate that Carolina does the Whalers night. That it
Mhm.
rubs some old Whalers fans the wrong way.
Oh, I bet.
But I love seeing the old jerseys out there again. I think that's pretty cool.
And I know there's a lot of chatter about Quebec City, throughout the NHL, and I think the Jacobs family has been pretty famous for saying they're not in favor of it just because the corporate dollars aren't there. In this smaller city, as we know, and it's one of those odd cities where we know they would pack out that arena every single night. But are you really growing the fan base for the NHL there?
Right.
No,
There's already
probably
so much hockey there,
right.
and yeah, you've got certainly have the fans. But yeah, if the intent is to grow a newer fan base, then yeah, maybe that's not your destination.
I mean, the NHL is going to piss everybody off because I think Atlanta is going to get a third shot at it before Quebec City gets another one. Um,
Entirely possible.
and it can work in Atlanta. I mean, I'm a proponent for it. I think the right location, the right ownership, and you can look back through that history. You probably know with the Flames and with the Thrashers, so many issues with ownership and just where the building was and the state of the building. It just both situations were
Yeah,
pretty
I actually
messy.
went to a
Yeah,
Thrashers game down there years
you
ago.
did.
Yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
you were the one that went.
yeah. One of the few.
Oh man. Yeah, it's such a major market though, right? But
Right. I mean, it's right there. It's a major metropolitan city. You'd think you'd be able to make it work.
yeah, should be interesting to see how that all goes. Here's a question. They left themselves anonymous on this one, has to be anonymous, but talking about coaches' challenges in the ECHL, how are coaches' challenges and replays handled by the ECHL? Do they have a situation room like the NHL does in Toronto?
No, everything's done locally. So if um, there was a review, I think, on Saturday's game of a potential goal or a goal that looked like it crossed, or I think it ended up getting waved off for goalie interference. But we've got 3 cameras in house, one over each goal that looks straight down from the rafters, and then one that's on the clock, so that when they review the footage on the iPads that we have, you can always see the clock. You know exactly what time it is that whatever it is
Mhm.
happened. But that's it. So we actually don't have like a coach's challenge for offsides because we don't have the cameras or the technology for that.
And we're thankful for that, by the way. That's the most hideous challenge in the NHL. Oh,
I
awful.
get it. I mean, it could end up rewinding. Who knows? The amount of time on the clock. So yeah, that could be incredibly frustrating. Could add another 5-10 minutes on the game, depending on how that goes. But yeah, so it's only for basically goal related
Mhm.
replays, and then that's all done right there on the ice. The guys looking at the iPads right there. It's just them. They make the call.
Gotcha, gotcha. No, that's good to know. And yeah, going back to the offsides thing, it's always frustrating when it's 35 seconds after the puck has crossed the line, right? And yeah, even if the linesman misses it, like there's got to be like a I don't know. You hear a lot of ideas. I say after 20 seconds, You can't challenge it. If
So
your
you
team
think
has had
the coaches should get a flag that they can throw on the ice
or
to signal the
yes,
challenge?
yeah, just in case it goes in, right? I don't know about a flag, that might be problematic, but I would just say something like, if let's say it's an offsides or a questionable offsides call that gets let go, and then 45 seconds into that ozone time, the puck is scored. You can't challenge it after 30 seconds or 25
Like that
seconds.
team had plenty of opportunity to get the puck out, and they
You were able
didn't.
to get
So
reset. It wasn't like a breakaway that was missed or something like that, right? I don't know. It's one of those that and it drives me bonkers even when it favors my team, because it's just like, I just want to go to bed, guys. Like, it's late. I gotta get to sleep, man. They're just adding to the time
it
here.
does
So,
take a while too. Those I feel like
oh,
the offside challenges always take forever too.
yeah, definitely a frustrating one. Last one here, another one just from Facebook. Do you expect the ECHL will ever reach 32 franchises to match up with the NHL someday?
Maybe I think by the time the ECHL gets to 32, the NHL will be at like 34.
Yeah,
I think the
probably.
NHL may grow a little faster, but it all depends on the teams that are in the league and how they want to develop their players and what their strategy is with that. Like we were talking about earlier, Hershey and South Carolina, like the Caps really stock their minor league teams and really develop their players. It's important to them to do that. Other teams don't, value or don't necessarily use that as a development tool or send down as many players to the ECHL level. So there isn't a demand for it. I think there's maybe 2 NHL teams that don't have ECHL affiliations,
Yeah, I think you
and
might
there
be
might
right.
be
Yeah,
one ECHL team that doesn't have an NHL affiliation, I think.
yeah, I
Um,
think you're right.
but
Something like that.
it's
Yeah.
certainly helpful, at least it should be, in theory, helpful for the team in a number of ways to have that affiliation. But yeah, I think the NHL team growth will kind of outpace the ECHL, although we're getting another. Was it the Lake Monsters? Was that this year?
Right, there's one down south, right? Or the Tahoe came in, and then there's another one in South Carolina coming in next year.
Which is your second? Yeah, I think
Or
there's another team. The ECHL is growing pretty quickly too.
yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
mean,
it's
like, the
great.
team in Savannah is doing really well. Their attendance numbers have been great.
Yeah, I mean, hockey works in the South. I mean,
I did not. I lived in Savannah for a number of years, and I never would have
yeah,
guessed they'd
yeah,
have a team there. But I'm happy to see it's doing really well.
yeah. Outside of the Phoenix area, it's doing awesome, right? Phoenix, a struggle, a little bit of the struggle bus there. Well, that's the last question I have. Regan, any other thoughts or anything else from you before we sign out here?
No, I appreciate you having me on. I'm happy to answer the questions. I think there's some good questions in there, and happy to chat hockey with you.
Yeah, not just thank you again for being willing to come on. Kind of cool to have someone from the ECHL on to talk a little bit about what you guys do and the inner workings of a game, and talk a little OV, talk a little caps as well in there. So that's always good. So thank you, Regan, and thank you all for watching and listening tonight. Of course, if you do like what you're hearing here, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below. Helps me out a lot, helps the channel out a lot. So until next time, everybody, be kind, show love, and God bless.